Hello everyone, welcome to the Oracle of the Central Sun. I'm Michelle. This video is about the full moon in Libra. This will happen on the 1st or the 2nd of April, depending on your time zone. Where I'm at in South Africa, this full moon is happening at 4:12 a.m. in the morning, so adjust for your own time zone. So with a moon in Libra is all about relationships. It's all about how we love, how we connect. It's about our values. It's about our creativity inwardly and outwardly. And Libra is that archetype of seeking harmony inside ourselves, harmony in our relationships. And when it comes to a full moon in Libra, when we are at the full moon point, the sun is always opposite the moon. So it's a point that creates a little bit more of a tension element energetically. And at the full moon, there's usually a sense of a part of the storyline of our lives connected to the last month and also connected to longer cycles. The energy gets to a culmination point where there's fruits to be eaten, something to be seen, something has come into physical manifestation. And then after the full moon, the energy dies down and dissipates again. So with this full moon in Libra, the moon is sitting at 12 degrees and 21 minutes of Libra. And that means the sun is sitting in the opposite sign of Aries. Now, when we have this dynamic, we are so connected to where we are at in relationships. Libra is that archetype of relationship. Aries is all about the individual, who I am now. So there's a tension point at this full moon, some kind of culmination, something coming to fruition in terms of who we each are now as an individual and how we decide to now be in relationship, how we are seeking more harmony in relationship, how our choices are changing, and what we may be choosing to let go in order to move forward in a completely new way. So this full moon has quite a lot of favorable flowing aspects, and the ruler of this full moon, which is Venus has recently moved into the other sign that she rules, Taurus. So Venus rules Libra and Taurus. And so she's equally comfortable in these two places. But what is happening for Venus at the time of this full moon is she is now at 3 degrees of Taurus, and she is building up to an exact square to Pluto. This exact square to Pluto will happen only 2 days after this full moon. So this square energy is very strong at the time of this full moon. So Venus square Pluto is also an aspect that brings more tension into our lives. It is where challenge occurs in order to help us evolve, in order to see the next steps of how we are going to be walking in terms of relationship. So Venus, like I said, it's about love, relationships, creativity, money, values. And then Pluto is that archetype of transformation. Pluto is the change bringer in terms of really, really deep and really long-term transformation, where transformation can occur very suddenly with an archetype like Uranus. With Pluto, it's usually slower. And so what happens at the time of this kind of aspect between Venus and Pluto, like a square that is happening, is that a long-term process might now come to a culmination point, because we are dealing with the full moon, we are dealing with a square. So the transformation that Pluto can bring can be really, really deep. And with Pluto, we often are working with shadow aspects. We are dealing with things that can be more subconscious, coming to light. And we are dealing with long-term transformation and things that could have been with us for decades and lifetimes is what Pluto can excavate and then bring to light and transform. So there's something very deep that can happen at the time of this full moon that can really be life-changing in terms of Pluto, for the first time in our lifetimes, is now sitting at 5 degrees of Aquarius. Aquarius is all about the people. It's about the collective and how we want to all be together on this planet, in this world. And Venus is that more personal aspect of how we want to be as an individual, how we want to be in our relationships, how we want to connect to close friends, personal relationships, and also to the tribe, the collective, the planet. So all of these things can really be shifting and changing and transforming for us at the time of this full moon. So I drew 2 cards for the entire chart of the full moon, so the energy that this full moon brings. And the first card I received was the 5 of Wands. Now the 5 of Wands, if you look at this card, you can see it's 5 youths, maybe teenagers, and they kind of like sparring and battling, looking who's got the biggest stick. So this card symbolically is about conflict. It is also about comparison. So there's something in terms of the more challenging aspects that occur with the ruler of this full moon that can feel quite conflictual. But these things that are coming to light in terms of conflict and challenge, and also maybe where we are comparing ourselves to others, can really, really shift and change. So this card is really asking us to look at how we deal with conflict, how we deal with conflict in our personal lives, how we deal with relating to the huge amount of conflict that is happening in the world at large at the moment. These are very challenging energies to hold inside ourselves, you know, and these are things that are very related to Pluto in terms of the shadow elements of what small and big conflict can bring. And Pluto can really help us at the time of this full moon to connect to the micro and the macro level. That is one of the blessings that Pluto brings in terms of how we can relate to the world in the micro and the macro. So that is the one thing that we're being asked to look at, how we deal with conflict, see where maybe we need to find a more mature way of dealing with it. And this could also be related with this card to boundaries. And it could also be related as to that boundary inside ourselves in terms of how much or how little we connect to the larger conflict that is happening on the planet right now. Of course, we don't want to be in denial about what is happening in our world. And at the same time, we need to look after ourselves. We need to have those inner boundaries to know when to tap into those larger energies on the planet and when to maybe step back a little bit. And then the other card that is for this entire full moon energy is the Queen of Swords. Now, the Queen of Swords relates beautifully to the Five of Wands in the sense that she is that archetype of wisdom and maturity. So what this card is showing us is that we're dealing here with a sword card, which is the air element. We can speak our truth. We can bring our wisdom in terms of our relationships at this time. This is available to us. We can step into the more mature and wise part of ourselves and really use these energies in a beautiful way at the time of this full moon. So then the card that I received for the ruler of this full moon, Venus, which is in that tension element to Pluto, is the Four of Pentacles. And the Four of Pentacles related to this full moon is about where we are holding on too tightly, where we are trying to control in our relationships, in big, small ways, in unconscious ways, where we are trying to control the narrative, where we are trying to control other people, where we are controlling ourselves too tightly in terms of holding back to keep the peace in relationships. All of these things can really be seen and transformed at this time. So this card of Venus squaring Pluto is asking all of us right now, where do we need to release control? Where can we step back and let things unfold and flow as they need to? You can see this person on this card looks almost uncomfortable because they're holding on too tightly. They're stepping on the pentacles, they're holding them very tightly in their arms. And it's a very uncomfortable position to actually be in if you look at the way it sits on this card. So tap into this energy and ask yourself these questions that these cards are revealing to us: where to release control, where to step into more maturity. Then we have a more long-term flowing aspect that is happening at the time of this full moon, which is also related to Pluto, and that is Saturn sextiling Pluto. So Saturn is sitting at 5 degrees of Aries and Pluto is sitting at 5 degrees of Aquarius. And this aspect can really bring such long-term change into our lives. It is the specific energy of this sextile is still going to be with us until about the 25th of April. So tap into this. This is all about long-term change. Pluto is that slow transformation. Saturn is making it concrete, really bringing very solid, grounded, long-term goals into our lives. And again, 2 cards showed up for this sextile. The first one being the 7 of Swords. Now, this card has 2 symbologies that are very strong, and I think they're both applicable at the time of this full moon. The one being deception, you can see it's almost like this guy, in a sense, is sneaking away with a sword in his hands. So this card is asking us to really investigate at the time of this full moon where there may be small and big elements of our lives where we are deceiving ourselves, and really bring to light, because we are working with Pluto, because we are working with that excavating element and bringing shadows into the light. Really working with this in terms of releasing self-deception, and this can also be related to what we are seeing in the world at large at the moment, in terms of things that were hidden in the world for a really, really long time coming to light. And what we are seeing in the collective is that people are now really starting to stand up for wanting the truth. So there's something shifting in the collective, and it starts within us, you know, it starts with us not deceiving ourselves. It starts with us not deceiving people close to us. All of these things are going to shift and change while we are dealing with this aspect, and also long term with Pluto being in Aquarius, working with the collective. So tap into this energy, see where you need to bring self-deception to light, and this can be very transformative at this time. And this card to me is the Eight of Pentacles. Taps into this Saturn sextile Pluto in terms of the long-term goals. You can see this person is away from the village. He has got many things that he's working on, and he's getting very, very clear and very in tune with exactly how to do things, and really bringing a sense of greater perfection and precision into what needs to get done. So for us in our long-term goals, this is a beautiful symbology in terms of really putting time and energy into those finer details of our long-term goals and how we're going to relate to them. And then we also have the last trine between Mercury in Pisces and Saturn in Cancer. Now, if you watch my Mercury retrograde video, and Mercury is still in that shadow period of the retrograde right now, Mercury and Jupiter went through 3 different trines as Mercury was retrograding. And at the time of this full moon, Mercury is just stepping into that final trine with Jupiter. And these, the trine always connects 2 signs of the same element. So this is a water trine between Pisces and Cancer. So this is very much related to our emotional state. So the card that showed up for this is Temperance, which is beautiful because this is all about harmony. The Temperance card is asking us to find that inner emotional harmony. It is about compassion, compassion for ourselves, compassion for others in our relationships. And it is also about being diplomatic and kind. So this is such a lovely card because with Mercury trine Jupiter, we can really step into a new way here of how we communicate with others, how we communicate our values, our belief systems, and just our general life philosophy can really be communicated in a new way. And we can find in this water element trine a beautiful balance going forward. And also you can see how the angel is pouring the water between the cups. Really learn how to share our emotions in beautiful, new, balanced ways. And then finally, the I Ching reading for this full moon is hexagram number 6. And I feel that this relates beautifully to the overall energies of this full moon and very much to that Venus square Pluto element. Hexagram 6 is called resolving conflict. It says, when you can find peace within yourself, you will find peace all around you. So this sentence is beautiful in itself, because it's really asking us to do our inner work, you know, instead of pointing fingers, instead of blaming, instead of looking out there in the world, do our inner work, find our inner peace. You, like the inner diplomat, observing the conflict, discovering hidden agendas. So this all comes back to this card, where the hidden agendas and the deceptions can be revealed. Digging into the causes of dangers and difficulties. Take a deep breath, a big step back. Resolving inner conflicts enables you to find solutions to external problems. Sometimes doing nothing is better than doing the wrong thing. Once you make peace with yourself, you can make peace with anyone. I really, really love this. With Venus, we can really tap so deeply into our hearts at the moment and really work with our inner harmony. There's something that can really shift and change with this full moon in terms of connecting to the heart, you know, connecting to the love inside us and bringing that out into the world in a new harmonious way. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I love sharing these astrological energies with you, and also sharing the tarot and the I Ching guidance, because I find it personally so incredibly valuable. I'm promoting 2 offerings at the moment, one of them being my monthly Moon Wisdom Lab. It starts every month on the new moon. Get in touch if you want to join. It's a full month of group guidance. I walk you through an entire month where we work with a moon cycle, and you get personal guidance in terms of your rising sign. And then I am also offering a deep dive into knowing your personal Venus. This is happening while Venus is in her home sign of Taurus. So we can really connect to those beautiful Venusian energies. This is going to help you to understand Venus in your chart for the rest of your life. And you can also get guidance in this offering for what is going to transpire for you with the Venus retrograde later this year. Thank you so much. Share with others if you find value here. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you again soon.